Hello, welcome to my podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that we don't really think about, but it's always been there. So, my name is Angel Alonso, so let's get right to it. So, for my English class for college, I had to write an essay on something that we are taught since we are barely starting to read and write. That we are taught this certain thing that we don't really think about it, but we don't really question it because that's all we know. So, when you're little, your mom always tells you, if you eat before you swim, you might throw up, they just told you that, so you don't know if it's actually true or it's just telling you that. So today I'm going to be talking about something that we don't think about, like the thing I just said, but it's not it's kind of the same. So, since you're in third grade, when you're practicing for your STAR test or whatever, they always tell you, the structure, it has to be the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, right? And you don't really disagree with it. You're like, yeah, that makes sense, right? It has a start, a middle, and an end, right? So, I did my research on, is this really true? Do we really need to go based off the intro, body, conclusion? Or could we do it some other way, start off differently, with the body first, the ending, something like that, change things up. So I did my research, to see if it changed. If they were just taught that because it was easy, or if it was the only way. So this is what my research is all going on about. First and foremost, on my first research that I did is by someone named Elizabeth Abrams, which is titled Essay Structures, right? And this essay basically says that in order to present your ideas, you have to make it so it makes the most sense to the reader. What this means is, in order to make more sense, it has to be basically in order. It has to flow logically in order for the reader to understand it. So let's say you start off someone died, and then you don't explain what or how or why. Your reader's not really gonna know what you're talking about or what you're trying to tell them. So it's just stuff like that. That's what the first one says. You just have to understand that writing in a way that makes it easier for the reader to understand is going to benefit you and the reader, because the reader's going to know, this is what he meant. I just read this before, now he elaborated on it, now it makes more sense. So I'm just not going to be as confused. It's fine if you don't write in the same order as others. Different people like to write the body first and the body. Some people like writing the body first and the conclusion, then the introduction, right? That's fine if you write them. You don't have to write them in logical order, but as long as at the end you put it it started like this led up to that, and this is how it got resolved, it'll be fine. As long as the reader knows, okay, this happened. This is how it all came together. Yeah, so like I said before, and this would be a logical order that flows with it, right? Then as I dug into this topic, I found out that another source saying that writing, and I quote, writing should feel smooth with similar points linked together. What this basically means, my bad, and this was said by the article named How to Structure Your Writing from the website Learn Higher. So what this basically means is that your points have to connect to each other. They just can't be all over the place, talk about one thing, then bring it to something totally different, then end it there and start it up all again after that. It has to be linked together in a way that doesn't feel too all over the place. It's not confusing you. You want someone that's reading your essay, or if you're reading somebody's essay, you want it to make sense. You're gonna be like, okay, that's what he meant. I get it now. This is, you get me. You have to make it seem okay, man. I know it's kind of logical. When you watch a movie, you have to start it starts with something this happened to this character and it led up to something else, and that's the way it happened. It was foreshadowing, and it makes you more into it, and it's more okay, I get it. Let me keep reading it. I want to find out what happens, But and then I thought about it more this is all about writing essays, right? But not everybody writes essays trying to explain to someone or tell a story. So my research, I try to dig it up. I'm trying to find other perspectives of people, with doctors or a teacher, a song, even a songwriter, how they structure the song. So I dug more into it, see maybe it's just, I want to see if this involves every other type of writing, not just writing essays for a school test, right? So I dug into it, and I found this article which is called The Art of Writing Love Songs with Pamela Phillips Oland, right? And this says that it kind of makes sense also, that you need to write a song in an order that makes sense. You know, like it says the first verse should bring the listener into a situation, right? So yeah, it basically means you're gonna introduce them to the thing. The second verse, and I quote, will address some history of the situation, right? It makes sense also. It's the body, right? You have to explain to them what's led up to the introduction, like what the intro is talking about. And then the third verse, another quote tells what the resolution of the situation is going to be. You know, as you can see, it doesn't say the exact same words that we're used to, but if you really think about it, it has the same core structure, right? That's what matters. That's a core structure, even if it's worded differently. You know, you get me? But you know, that's just like a song, right? I love songs. So you know, I also thought like people write research papers, like biomedical people write papers, or like medical students write papers in order to tell what they want to say, right? So I'm sure it's like different. They're not trying to explain something. They're trying to help people and explain like what they found out. So in the article "How to Write Your First Research Paper" by the author Elena D. Kalsitinova says that before like you actually write a paper, you have to make an outline, right? It makes sense. The same thing for an essay. You make an outline so you can flow it, make adjustments, brainstorm, right? It says for the research paper, it says, to me, based on what I read, it says that the order that it has to be written on, it has to follow this specific order. You must have an introduction, right? It's simple, check mark right there. Then after you put the materials, the methods, results, and the discussion, right? A body, basically. You're trying to explain what the introduction is trying to say, which makes sense. And at last, you put your conclusion, right? So it doesn't say, it says the introduction and the conclusion, right? Like we're used to. It doesn't say body, but the things it says, the methods, results, discussion, materials, it's basically the body. Like it's where you put between the introduction and the conclusion, you know, so it can flow from the introduction and flow to the body, so you could be able to explain what it's trying to say. Then transition to the conclusion, so you could finish up what they researched, what they're trying to show you, so you can learn, right? And at last, I thought about it, right? Like, it's simple, right? It makes sense. Then the last words I have, right? It's a video. It's a really short, simple video I saw off YouTube, right? By Sean McLeod, which is called Basic Essay Structures, right? It's really simple. It says something really straight to the point, and it makes sense. It says every essay, writing, song, whatever, it might seem different, you know, the order might seem like they're probably not talking about the same thing, they're talking about different things, right? But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, which is what it all comes down to at the end, right? If you notice about everything I talked about, it comes down to those main three, right? So, you know, it makes sense. It has to make sense to it. Like, it could be an essay, a research paper, a song, a love song. It doesn't have to be a love song. It could be any kind of song, right? If you really hear the music, it'll basically tell you how it should start and what should happen. So, what I learned about this, right, is, you know, my research, like, what I thought was, like, maybe it's a different way, right? Because we were taught so little, right? And not everything people tell you is true. It should be true. You shouldn't believe everything people say. So, this is something I wanted to see, like, I've been doing this my whole, like, life since 3rd grade, right? Like, oh, yeah, this makes sense, right? So, I basically found out, yeah, an essay, make it have whatever you want on it, anything that you want to talk about. But at the end of the day, it comes down to its core structure, like a core structure of an essay, of a writing, which is the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. You know, it might seem hard to write, right? I know, I'm really not that good at it either. Like, never was it in high school, especially in middle school. I would always barely, and I say barely, pass my tests, barely. I would always get, like, I think the passing grade was like a 2 or a 3. I think I would always get like a 2, like barely passing. Like, I don't know why I just couldn't write it, but it might seem hard to write it, right? And it is complicated, trust me. As I thought it was. It seemed like really hard at times. You just want to give it up, like, do I really need this? But all you gotta think about is, it might be hard, but as long as you structure it right and make it flow right, and like, it might not be the best writing, but as long as you make it flow and seem right, you'll be fine, you know? So next time you're writing an essay, it could be for fun, or it could be for your school or college. But remember one thing. Remember the course structure, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. It might be like, I know it's hard to start it, but at least you know the way it should go. And once you figure that out, you'll be golden. Always remember to always make it feel smooth for the readers, and to make it seem logical. You know, you always want something. You gotta think to yourself, would I understand this if I didn't know about it, if I read it, right? So, you know, that's what I learned. Like, every essay, every writing, research paper, a song, it all comes down to its main course structure. Is the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, right? Alright, well, thank you for your time, and this is my first podcast, as you can tell. People in high school, middle school, hey, keep up with the good work. I know writing seems impossible, but it's not really too bad after all. Bye.